Hello and good morning. It's Friday, the 26th of November, 2021. I find it quite funny because I've been doing these for about a year now. And actually just the process of when I say the date every Friday, you realize how quick the year is actually kind of going, which is quite scary. All I'm saying that, I must admit, I haven't left the country in quite a long time now with COVID and everything else. So actually, this has been a bit of a slog for the past 2 years, but one of the things I've always tried to do is just work hard and do this stuff. And every Friday morning at 9 o'clock, I do a live Q&A. And if you get involved in the comments, you can comment on any of the platforms, Twitch, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, any of them. And it should pop up on my screens and I can they should pop up on your screen as well, but I can kind of read them out and interact. And what I try and do is tell you a little bit about stuff that I've done this week, and that's just an honest kind of warts and all the stuff on my journey, because as an entrepreneur, and I'm doing my own stuff, when I have the business course, which is called the Roadmap MBA, which hopefully you've probably seen me talk about. Basically, it's a real world business course to help people grow their business or career, specifically aimed at smaller businesses, so kind of under 250 people, probably about $20 million or pounds. But the reason why we do that is the challenges that smaller businesses face are different, because often the people that work within them are often asked to actually do multiple things. So you're often not just really good at one thing. You're probably asked to manage a team, do some sales, do some HR, come up with a strategy, probably understand some sort of finance and accounts and that kind of thing. And basically in most people's careers, it's very difficult to kind of learn that stuff. And one of the big reasons why this exists is that there are, give or take, 8 billion people in the world, and only 1%, if that, actually have access to traditional business education. So that if you can afford to do a proper MBA from Harvard or Durham or wherever, do it. I'm sure you'll have a fantastic time. But the truth is, almost 100% of the world's population, certainly a very high percentage, can't afford to do that. And one of the big things that I'm really passionate about is just helping to raise standards and actually give people access to stuff that I genuinely will help them grow their business or career. And actually, you know, in many cases, yes, businesses pay and we do it for their team. It's very kind of affordable. But we also have a buy one gift one initiative. So actually anyone in the world, and that's true, anyone in the world can get access to the same information completely free. Basically it's guest list at roadmapmba.com. But almost in terms of the mission to make business education accessible, we do it both in terms of reading and text and making complicated concepts simple. We do it in live streams, we do it in podcasts, we do live Zoom sessions every week. And basically it's trying to make really complicated stuff either as simple as possible to help you understand it, but then likewise giving you access to it in a way that you don't have to take out a loan for £20,000, which most people can't afford to do. So that's what I do in this live stream. It's just part of that kind of journey that I do every Friday morning. Simon, good morning. I love it when people kind of get involved. I always try and interact if I can. And then likewise, if there's anything that you actually want me to cover, as in like right now, I've got my pens, I've got the whiteboard. So if you want to work on sales or marketing or whichever, or it's a business strategy question, drop it in and I will answer it right now. And part of the reason why I do that is that basically my day job is as a management consultant. So I get paid to basically grow and turn around other people's companies. And it's harder than people think. So the fact that, you know, I'm not afraid to almost put myself on the spot and every week turn up that people can ask questions, and you can ask me pretty much whatever you want. I would soon get found out if I was kind of full of shit, if I couldn't deliver every week, if that makes sense. So almost, yes, it's a great way to kind of raise awareness on what we're trying to do. But actually feel free to get involved. I love it when people get involved. And then likewise, we also like to ask kind of, what have you been up to this week? Often when you're trying to build a dream or build a business, it doesn't happen overnight. There's so much hard work and time and effort that goes into it, that often it's important to kind of celebrate the small wins as well as the big ones, because actually that's how you build a business. That's how you build, I guess, a career. That it's often very rarely one big thing, but it's thousands of little things that you do every day. For me, again, what have I done this week? I actually took delivery of 1,000 Roadmap MBA courses yesterday. So if you're lucky, some of those are going to be going out in the post. Some of you might actually receive it today. They only came at 2 p.m. yesterday, so I didn't get as many out as I wanted to. But that's a really big thing for me. I've done some interviews lately. I've kind of picked that back up now that the rebrand is now live. So I did the one with Chris Hemingway, which is on Time to Act. So that's a new investment vehicle. It's a new clean tech business. We are going to float on the stock market, and I'm basically involved with that project, and that's kind of really exciting. And then actually on Monday live, I'm going to release the recording this Monday coming up, was with my good friend Peter, who's a spice trader from Middlesbrough, Peter McKeown. And what we did was just do like a warts and all recap on the year, how we found it, did it go as we expected, was it better, was it worse, what went wrong, that kind of thing. And again, that's just, you know, in the same way that we're all on this kind of journey ourselves. And even if you're in your career at the moment and working for someone else, it still helps to kind of build your skill set, because at some point you can use these skills to either go for a promotion, go for a new job somewhere else, or a lot of people now kind of want to start their own thing as well. So I promise the roadmap is all really good stuff. In the live kind of launch event, which I did a few weeks ago, I walked you through every single page of the course so you can see what's there. So, you know, there's no kind of hidden agenda or whatever. I'm 100% kind of proud in what I'm doing, and hence why I kind of stand up every week. But please get involved, and it should pop up on the screen. And then likewise, I also love to know where in the world you're watching from. So the roadmap is now in 23 countries. As of this afternoon, it'll be 24, because one is going to Portugal for the first time. And basically, yeah, it's just, you know, it's a really kind of community, and with the ability of the internet, it's a great way for me to connect in some ways to people in Mumbai or Australia or wherever. And, you know, this is kind of what we love to do. Good morning, Matt. What time do I get up? Okay, that's a good question. So I'll give you an honest answer. My wife gets up earlier than I do in terms of daily routine. 6 is probably an average day. I get into the office for about 7:30. I actually probably spend about half an hour on YouTube, longer than I should in the morning, just kind of browsing before I kind of wake up. I come down to the office for about 7:30, jump onto my emails, and then what I end up doing, if you take the course of a week, is that I balance basically my paid stuff that people actually pay me to do, which was with clients. That is 4 days out of my 5, or out of my 7. So what I basically do is react to whatever the most important thing is that day. It could be an offshore energy business thing, it could be a PR thing, it could be some marketing, it could be, you know, that kind of thing. And I actually try and just fit all of this around that, so that I have certain commitments that I've made for the roadmap, which is the live classroom sessions. That's 3 p.m. Tuesday, 8 p.m. Tuesday, 7 a.m. Thursday, and then this, and then there's a midday one on a Friday as well. And I just cram everything else around that. And then realistically, I was here until about 6:30 last night, getting stuff done. And to be honest, that's an average kind of day. My mum is actually coming up to visit today, so I'm hoping to finish a little bit early, maybe about 4 today. I'm not one of these people that works crazy hours, because actually something I've mentioned in the past is that you need to find a level where you can operate well, but actually for a sustained period of time. We can all kind of throw ourselves into a project and work crazy hours, but you can only do it for a certain amount of time, then your kind of performance degrades. So because I don't have holidays or insurance or whatever, you know, because I'm self-employed, I kind of have to manage my time and effort and health and fitness and sickness and stuff. So I purposely don't push myself too hard, but actually doing all the client work pays for all of this. So actually it's that balance of, whilst I'm trying to grow something without external funding, although it's a lot of effort to do stuff for other people, I actually enjoy doing it, and it gives me stuff to talk about, and it gives me hopefully a bit more credibility than if I was just teaching someone else's theory. But actually, yeah, so that's kind of a day in the life for me. And then I tend to go to bed realistically 8:30, which I know for some people will think that's crazy super early, but actually it allows me to get up early and at least get my kind of, refreshed. And then something else my wife actually told me yesterday is that when you're actually looking at the 6 kind of pillars of high performance, exercise, important to keep that in. You got your sleep, you got your nutrition, and there was a few others that I can't remember. But actually, I purposely, since I've built up a routine, I've actually improved a lot. I think, you know, I was a lot more kind of reactive, say a year ago or a few years ago. I was actually just having a set routine. And as silly as this sounds, I now know what makes me happy or unhappy, especially because I do a lot of broadcast stuff. So I hate it when my hair gets too long. I know this sounds stupid, but I now pre-book. I know, Matt, you don't have this problem as well, but I get my hair cut every other Tuesday at 9:30 in the morning without fail. And although that sounds silly, just having the routine and knowing that it's booked in keeps me happy, and it makes me more efficient. And I kind of just build my time and my work around stuff like that. That for me, kind of routine works really well. But hopefully, I really enjoy the questions, so I appreciate that kind of thing. So today I've got 3 main questions. One is actually, I think, the most interesting one, which I'm going to probably do first, actually. But basically what we've got is why, it's a classic question, why don't staff care as much as the owner about the business? It's kind of obvious, but actually it's something worth talking about, because a lot of business owners get annoyed that the staff quit or leave or get frustrated or whatever, or just don't put the hours or the time in, but almost they shouldn't have to. There's a big one which is going on in America at the moment, because again, the roadmap is a global course, and what I'm trying to do over time is hopefully build more traction in America, because obviously, especially in America, business education is really expensive. But actually over there's something called a great tech resignation, which is going to be my main kind of topic today. Basically 4.4 million people in America quit their jobs just in September. And there's this whole thing going on with the world, kind of recruitment, economy, people, culture, that I wanted to talk about it because I think it's genuinely interesting. It does affect almost everyone, which is quite cool. And then last but not least is something which came up in the conversation this week is it actually possible to get everything done that you want to do? And I'm going to jump onto this one now because I actually think the answer is no. Most diligent people, we go in, we do our jobs, we run our businesses, we do our client work, we do whatever it is that we kind of need to do. But the truth is, most of us have a task list that is always bigger than actually what we need to do, if that makes sense. So for instance, we only have so many hours in a day. And I've joked with other people how it would be brilliant if you could just pause time, get everything done, then unpause and just carry on. But the truth is, it's just not possible. If you are really good at your job, chances are you're passionate about what you're doing, and you're actually probably going to find new things to do because you want to do things better and faster and improve the business and work after the team. But the point is, because you're a proactive individual, you'll probably never get things done because actually you always want to do a really good job. I think the trick is knowing what is the most important thing to focus on, to really kind of put your priorities in place. Work, your hours and do the commitment, but also not feel too guilty if certain things do get dropped, providing it's not a critical kind of thing. There will always be something that can't get done or doesn't get done, but that's true for every business, everyone around the world. And it was almost just when you kind of make the mindset not to be too hard on yourself all the time, all day, every day, about everything you want to get done, it kind of takes the pressure off. It makes you a lot happier. And just to go back to Matt's question from before, one of the things that I've been guilty of is that basically when a client request comes in to do stuff, and bear in mind, because I do stuff 7 days a week for these kind of 4 companies, I always try and do it straight away. But the truth is, I shouldn't. I should schedule it, and I should get better with my time about what I do. But it's just because I want to do a good job. And in theory, it's only when people take really great pride in what they do does actually you suffer the most, because you care the most. That's where someone that actually doesn't really give a shit about what they're doing or about the client's business or whatever probably doesn't care if they don't get stuff done as long as they get paid. And that's the difference, where some people will get done what they need to do and not really give a shit about the business or what happens as soon as their phone goes off or it's 5 o'clock, they're kind of gone. And often it's the people that care the most that suffer the most. And it was just, we all kind of go through it. I go through it as well. And it was just something I wanted to talk about because a lot of people have kind of mentioned it recently. Just asking the question, and we always joke that it's not possible. And the truth is, it's not. So that's as simple as that. And I just thought it was an interesting kind of topic to talk about, but especially because this happens in a lot of different businesses, a lot of different places. A lot of people often, in smaller companies, you don't know what other people do in other businesses, so you don't really know what's normal. And especially with social media and LinkedIn, all you ever see is this perfect version of nights out and awards and whatever. And people never put up the crappy shit stuff that happens every week, either the drudgery of just getting through stuff. And hence why I like to kind of talk about it if I can. But Matt, I appreciate the question. I also managed to pop to Costa for the first time. I used to do this quite a lot, but then as I increased the complexity in my setup, I never had time to go and do it, but I wanted to make the effort just because it's one of my Friday morning rituals that I've had a pretty tough week. But actually, by the time it gets to now, and I always make this commitment, so from 7:30 to kind of 9, I'm prepping all of this. And if I've got 20 minutes, I pop out and get a coffee. Gives me a chance to kind of prep my notes and stuff before I kind of come back. Next, I'm going to jump onto the other one, which is, should your staff or your team care as much about your business as you do? So if you're a business owner, a lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people think that you pay the salary, you make the commitment, you take the risk, the business owner takes the risk to commit to pay a salary in a way that whatever they invest in, be it the person, their time, the training to launch a new part of the business, to run the function, whatever it is that that person gives everything within their time slot and whatever to do whatever needs to be done to make it work. The truth is though, is that, and I know this firsthand, when something is your baby, so for me it's the roadmap, nothing will ever be perfect and you could always improve. And part of the reason why a lot of entrepreneurs go into business is because they strive for perfection all the time and they've got a dream or a mission that they're really kind of working towards. That, I'll be honest, is kind of all consuming. Rightly or wrongly, I kind of think about a lot of this stuff, not 24 hours a day because obviously I sleep, but whenever I'm out on weekends or whatever, it is my passion. But the truth is, if you're a paid employee, and I can say this because obviously I've had paid jobs in the past, you want to go in, you want to do a good job, you want to progress and get your reward for whatever it is that you're doing, because you should. But your objectives, and rightly so, are generally about your own passions, your own progression, trying to build the life that you want. And the two aren't exactly aligned. Where for me that companies should really kind of, work to tackle this, and it's something that I kind of cover in my next kind of point, it's to create the environment to help people flourish. But the big thing for me is that especially when you have high performing employees that really have potential to go on and do really kind of good stuff, it's probably the reason why you employ them. For me, yes, you can motivate them with money, and we've hopefully got a national or inflationary rise coming soon, and the UK national minimum wage is going up soon. But the point is, you can only pay people so much, because actually if the business runs out of money, everyone loses their jobs, so there is always a balance where staff often just want pay at a certain level, but after that it gets difficult for the employer to really kind of take it and move forward. So one of the things that I think is really important, especially for anyone that's on LinkedIn, which is a slightly higher level of employee, maybe at the management kind of level and upwards, you don't get many shop floor workers on LinkedIn. But actually it's how, for me, you want career plans, career progression, because actually what you can often do is, if you're trying to build a really good team, you need to give people a reason to actually stay with the business and actually feel engaged and they want to be there and they want to work. But actually, and I mentioned this on last week's live stream, in most of your careers, you can either learn, so it might be your first job and you're trying to learn a craft or whichever, or you want to earn, where you kind of know what you're doing and you just want to get paid, happy days. The best jobs provide both, where you get the opportunity to learn and develop whilst you're getting paid. And by getting paid, obviously everyone gets paid, but I mean get paid well. And the worst ones, again, and I've kind of been there, is when you're in a job where you're not getting paid particularly well, you don't feel valued by the employer, but actually you don't feel like you're learning anything or developing. And especially for people who are ambitious and want to kind of do well in their careers, they'll probably end up quitting and moving on somewhere else. And I just think it's a really interesting thing that basically when you're looking at this dynamic, employers and small businesses just create career plans for your team. Sit down with Matt or Simon or whoever and actually just ask, look, what is it that you want to achieve in the next kind of 2, 3, 5 years? What is it that you want to do? And then look at how can we actually help do this for you, so that they feel like they're developing, they're more likely to stay with the business, but actually you're going to have a happier, more engaged employee, and it doesn't have to cost you money. And the big thing for me, it's part of the reason why I kind of created the roadmap, is that you have a lot of people who are going through their career, excuse me, voice gets sore. A lot of people who are going through their career, and you get to a certain point where the next step up is like director level, and that's actually quite a big jump. And it's also a very difficult one to do, that if you're in a job, to then just move to get that progression, it almost takes someone to take a punt on you, so it's very difficult to kind of do. So we try and teach that stuff in the course. But actually, as the employer, if you know you have some shining stars coming through the business, invite them into, I'm so sorry about my voice. When you talk for 20 minutes straight, you can get a sore voice. Invite them into your board meetings or director meetings or whatever, to help them start to learn these skills and the engagement and that kind of thing that they would need at the next level. It might be, an hour a month or whatever, but actually just start to engage them in some of your finance meetings, so they get to learn more about how does the company spend money? Does the company make money? Where does the company make money, etc.? Because what you're doing is engaging with the team in a way to actually help them grow and develop and actually want to stay with the company, that you can reward them in different ways that don't have to be financial, which is especially important in smaller companies where you can't always afford to pay rises. But it was just on that dynamic of actually, why don't staff care as much as the owner? Because it's not their baby. And then likewise, being honest, the owner also gets the reward if it goes well. But true, they also take the risk if it doesn't. So I think it's just that kind of dynamic. But realistically, if you have a good and honest relationship with your team where you talk about different stuff and people feel engaged in the mission and what you're trying to do, I think there's a nice balance to be had there. But then likewise, reward people when they do a really good job for you. What time are we on? So we're on 9:20. So please get involved in the comments. If you comment, it should pop up. I would love to do what I did for Matt and just answer any questions to do with sales or marketing or strategy or COVID or whichever, and how you kind of react for that. Last but not least, and before I start, and I'm going to take a big drink of my drink to try and soothe my throat before I go into this, I had someone pick my brains on podcast and video setups on Thursday. I think it was Thursday, whatever. No, I don't even know what day it was. And actually what's quite interesting is that we were talking about how when you do a live stream like this, how I purposely repurpose the content. So for instance, this is live now on lots of different channels. So it's on LinkedIn, both my personal and the company. You've got Twitter, personal and company, Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, and quite a few others. But basically, yes, this goes out live, but very few people actually interact with this. But then when I get the recording of this, I then clip it up, and that then creates another like 6 or 7 YouTube videos which go on there, which then are live all the time. All of them link back to the website. But the point is, through doing one thing, you can actually create a lot more stuff. Does that make sense? And then last but not least this week, I'm going to talk about something called a great tech resignation. In America, there's been a massive change, I guess, since COVID. That historically, we all know that a lot of the growth in the world's economy has been through tech. It's the Facebooks, Amazons, Googles, whichever. And at the moment, especially, there is a huge amount of investment capital, people looking to fund, especially because interest rates have been so low, fund new developments, new companies, whichever. And basically what it's done is actually create a bit of a whirlwind, a hot point for basically fight for talent. But what's been interesting is that on 2 different levels, and it's being led in America, specifically in the tech sector because of the investment. But basically in September this year, 4.4 million people quit their jobs, either to take a career break or to move companies. But that's a huge amount. And if you actually look at some of the figures, for every 7 people in the USA, there are 10 jobs. So what that means, if you are looking for a job, means that there's actually more choice out there. You can actually be more kind of picky. But then likewise, if you're the employer, how do you actually create the environment to attract investment and actually retain good staff when you've also got margin pressures? And it's a really interesting dynamic that's going on. But the other thing which really kind of caught my eye, so I actually got this from a Bloomberg video and article which I watched earlier in the week, is that of the 4.4 million people that quit their jobs, over 50% aren't actually looking to get another job for at least 6 months. So that's mind-blowing in some ways, because what you've got, that's an economy that is already short-staffed if you look at it. But because of the environment, it could be to do with COVID, it could be to do with how people are really starting to kind of reassess their lives and what's important to them and what they want to do and how they want to spend their time. And I guess for a lot of people, they're also affluent enough that they can afford to take 6 months off, which would be cool. I might do that today. I'll just quit. That's it. But actually, just as a dynamic for a whole economy, it's really interesting. And then the other side to it as well, even people who are still in jobs, 7 out of 10, so 70%, are still looking to switch jobs, or they have a plan to switch jobs in the next year, probably for a pay rise or progression or whichever. So again, even if you are an employer and you've got a team and nobody's left, a fair percentage of them probably are, they've got an eye out to see what else is out there. And although these stats, which is what I got from Bloomberg, are about the US, I do think this will be true in the UK as well. One of my clients is a recruitment firm called Westray Recruitment, who are actually based upstairs. But it's true across the industry that there are, what was the stat? It was 1 million available jobs in the UK. and this was like a month ago. But actually, there's a lot of jobs out there. A lot of people are quite selective, but ironically, after COVID, a lot of people also don't want to switch jobs. So there's this huge kind of dynamic. So actually, what do you do if you're a person? Basically, as I mentioned before, if you're not happy what you're currently doing, you don't feel you're getting valued or paid, you're not enjoying it, the pressure's too high, and you're not really learning what you want to do. Yes, there are options out there for you, but actually for employers, historically, and this is one of the big tech things, is tech companies were famous for doing, people used to joke about beanbags, but creating a really nice work environment that people liked to come into, they felt involved, it was a nice place to be, that actually the onboarding procedure and the prestige of tech and the culture that they kind of built was a big selling point, plus the salaries were good. But the truth is, with COVID and a lot of people have started to work from home, a lot of those benefits have actually started to dry up because people are working from home more. They've lost a lot of the office culture type stuff. That actually there's a lot of things that employers can do to really try and bring that back to make people feel valued. Because whilst in the short term, some people might worry about, but there's the cost of paying for it, and what if people leave, or what if people, it's less efficient. But the truth is, for most businesses, your biggest risk is actually loss of staff, because that can topple the whole kind of thing. An interesting stat actually was that of everyone surveyed, 75% of people actually felt that the company put more effort into attracting new employees than staff retention. And I'll be honest, I think that's actually true. I think too many companies almost take for granted their current team, that they don't make them feel wanted and valued and whichever. And actually that's an easy switch. In theory, it doesn't have to cost anything. But again, it's the staff engagement, it's listening to people, it's asking how you're getting on, is there anything we can do to help you feel like you can develop, etc., will be a massive plus. Excuse me. But the other thing which is really interesting is that 62% of people actually felt that more kind of learning and development in their role would make them want to stay. 62%. And considering you've got 4.4 million people who recently kind of quit their jobs and moved on, that's a hell of a lot of people. What's that? It's a quick maths. 2.3 million-ish people of the group who are more likely to stay if they feel like they're learning and developing. So actually, it was only when I was writing these slides, part of the reason why I created this is that yes, it was ironically created for people going through the career looking to learn skills, launch a business, and that, help reach that next level. But one of the things that actually twigged when I was actually writing this article and writing the notes for this is that 62% of people are more likely to stay in their business if they feel like they're learning and developing, that kind of thing. Courses like the Roadmap, but others, which are alternatives to a traditional MBA. Most businesses probably can't afford to pay big money and have staff out of the business for a year and a half, a year, 2 years, depends on what kind of program you do. But you can do something like this or the Open University to work around your own commitments. But those kind of investments from employers in their team are recognised, and it will make you more attractive as a place to work than places that don't. And it was the stat, completely independent of me, that Bloomberg kind of mentioned. I just thought it was really interesting for this topic, that I think globally at the moment, a lot of people will be looking at how do they attract new staff, how do they keep the staff they've got, how do they make them feel valued, and how do they grow the business off the back of it. And learning and development is a great way to do that, especially if it doesn't take up work kind of time. So what time are we on? We're on 9:28. I do try and keep these short and snappy to about half an hour. I really enjoy kind of the interaction when people kind of do comment. One of my goals over the next year is just raising more awareness on what I'm doing and why I'm doing it and that kind of thing. Now that I have version 2, I'll be sending it out to more people, but you can always get involved. Drop me a comment, drop me a message. You can send in questions 24 hours a day to questions@roadmapmba.com. And actually, one of the things I might do, because I can't remember, it was during the launch event, it was a lady called Catherine mentioned to me that she didn't realise that if she commented, both I'd see it and it'd pop up on screen. So I might actually do a trial next week and have a little banner thing at the bottom, which basically encourages people to comment, just as a little beta test to see if I get more engagement. It'll be a really interesting kind of test. Just before I kind of finish up some of the stuff I've got coming up this week, I was kind enough to be invited to the Think Global Awards. So I've entered 2 categories for that. So Simon, if you watch that, thank you for kind of putting that on my radar. And then also next week, there is something called the NOF Energy Offshore Wind Northeast Conference and Exhibition. So that's at the Beacon of Light in Sunderland here in the UK, which is the northeast of England. And what that is, it's a big conference and event all about offshore energy, all about renewables, where the supply chain gets together and we listen about future opportunities, what's going to happen, what's coming up, what can they get involved in, and actually just interact and network with some really good kind of people. With my time to hat, actually, I'll be honest, with all of my hats on, I'll be there. So you got Time to Act, which is a new clean tech business. Me and some of the team are going to be there. You got Subsea Energy Solutions, the fantastic offshore energy business that we make offshore kit. You got Harvey and Hugo that I do PR and sales work for. Sorry, they do PR, but I do sales work and sales consultancy for them. And then likewise, Westray Recruitment as well. Really great business, really great team. And actually, just what's really interesting is just when you build your network and get to know more people, it's such a small world that hopefully people know who you are and they kind of buy into what you're doing, but hopefully try and build some trust and recognition. People see you around and that kind of thing as well. So if you're at the show, please kind of reach out. Hopefully I will see you there. So on 9:31, I'm going to call it quits, but I really appreciate everyone's time. Have a wonderful weekend. The fire alarm just went off for 2 seconds. I don't know if you heard that, but hopefully it's gone now. Yeah, have a great weekend. Good luck on your personal kind of projects. If you've got any questions, any topics that you want me to cover, please kind of reach out. And then what I'm also going to start doing as well is approaching more podcast guests for probably the new year now as we start to work towards 2022. Have a great day. If you've got any questions, my name's Steve Pugh. Please feel free to reach out. Drop me on any of the kind of social media channels. Have a wonderful Friday and I'll speak to you soon. All right, cheers guys. Thank you. Bye-bye. Where is it?